Parashat Ki Tissa. Let's begin. This Torah portion, even more so than others, is full of fascinating themes and layered ideas. And beyond just reviewing the events of the parashah itself, one of the most satisfying parts of our study is the ability to reflect and connect between the themes of the parashah itself and our own lives here and now. So let's begin. There's a lot to explore. The parsha begins with Hashem commanding Moshe, Ki tissa et rosh bnei Israel lifkudehem. Hashem commands Moshe to conduct a census of the people of Israel through the contribution of a half-shekel coin. The phrase Ki tissa can be understood as when you count, when you number. And unlike in Parashat Terumah, where we learned that the contributions to the Mishkan were voluntary from every person whose heart moved him to, with the donation itself being entirely unspecified, here in Parashat Ki Tissa, the instruction is explicit. Ha'ashir lo yarbe v'hadal lo yam'it mimachatzit hashakel. The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than half a shekel. The half-shekel coin collected from every male 20 and older for the purpose of the census was also used to build the silver sockets of the Mishkan. The adanim were heavy silver bases that formed the foundation of the sanctuary structure. Into them were inserted the wooden beams of the Mishkan. The adanim, the silver base of the entire Mishkan, was built literally and specifically through the equal and joined effort of the people of Israel, their machatzit hashekel. In this section dealing with the half-shekel, the root kapor, like in the word kapara, or kippurim, appears 3 times. Latet et trumat Hashem lechaper al nafshotechem, ולקחת את כסף הכיפורים מאת בני ישראל, והיה לבני ישראל לזיכרון לפני השם, לכפר על נפשותיכם. To give your portion to Hashem to atone for your souls, and continuing, and it shall be a remembrance before Hashem for the children of Israel to atone for your souls. The word atonement reminds us of a very specific date on the Jewish calendar. It's almost as though we are being prepared for what will happen later in the portion. Chet ha'egel, which literally translates to the sin of the calf, or as we know it, the sin of the golden calf, egel hazahav. According to Rashi, Sforno, and numerous other commentators, the commandment for the half-shekel and the commandments of the Mishkan were given to repair the sin of the golden calf, to atone for that sin. After Moshe descends Mount Sinai for the first time and sees the people worshipping the golden calf, he throws the tablets from his hands and shatters them at the foot of the mountain. Moshe then ascends the mountain 2 more times, each for 40 days. On the 3rd and final ascent, Moshe pleads with Hashem to forgive the people of Israel for the sin of the golden calf. On the 10th day of the month of Tishrei, Moshe descends the mountain with the 2nd tablets. From that moment onward, that day became established for all generations as Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, a day of forgiveness and reconciliation. So, was the use of the word atonement in the half-shekel commandment a hint towards what was going to unfold later in the parashah? The golden calf, the smashing of the first tablets. From here, we learn a major principle in Torah learning. En mukdam u'meuchar b'Torah, literally translating to, there is no earlier or later in the Torah. The Torah should not be treated as a chronological history book. Rather, Torah, from the word hora'ah, instruction. The Torah is the book written and arranged literally by the divine, and not necessarily according to the order in which the events occurred. This principle, there is no earlier or later in the Torah, stands at the center of the interpretation of Parashat Ki Tissa, particularly regarding the relationship between the commandments of the Mishkan and the sin of the golden calf. According to Rashi, the order of the topics in this parashah do not reflect the chronological order. In his view, the commandment of the Mishkan and the half-shekel came after the sin of the golden calf, meaning Hashem gave the people the Mishkan as a way to allow the divine presence, the Shekhinah, to dwell among them even after their sin, as a way to repair that relationship with Hashem. However, there are other opinions. The Ramban, Nachmanides, sees things differently. He argues that the events described in the parashah actually occurred in the order that they appear. First came the commandments concerning the Mishkan, given as a direct continuation of the revelation at Mount Sinai, and only afterward did the sin of the golden calf occur. Ramban writes, "V'sod ha-Mishkan hu she'yeh ha-kavod asher shachan al har Sinai shochen alav beseter." In other words, according to the Ramban, the Mishkan was meant to continue the spiritual experience of Sinai, but in a different form, a more concealed one, beseter. At Mount Sinai, Hashem's presence was revealed openly, with thunder, lightning, and the entire nation witnessing the moment. In the Mishkan, however, the divine presence appears in a more concealed way, and not in public revelation. According to the Ramban, the Mishkan is therefore not a response to the sin of the golden calf, but rather a direct continuation of Sinai from the very beginning, simply postponed or interrupted by the golden calf. And does the word seter, or Hashem dwelling among the people, but in a hidden way, remind you of anything? Seter, hester, concealment, is a major theme in Megillat Esther, the scroll of Esther, which we read this past week on Purim. In the Megillah, Hashem's name does not appear even once, yet the story unfolds through a hidden divine presence. The miracles of Purim all take place within the natural order of events, as remarkable as they may be, rather than through an open supernatural revelation. Let's return to the parashah, after the half-shekel and before the golden calf. The Torah continues with the construction of the Mishkan and its vessels, and introduces us to the chief creative officer or lead artisan, Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, from the tribe of Judah. And why Bezalel? "V'amale oto ruach Elokim b'chokhmah u'v'tvuna u'v'dat." I have filled him with a godly spirit, with wisdom, insight, and knowledge, u'v'chol melacha, and with every craft. Bezalel possessed both intellectual and spiritual abilities that allowed him to understand the most complex divine instructions and translate them into physical reality. He also had mastery over every type of craftsmanship required for the Mishkan. Precious metals, cutting and setting precious stones, wood carving, textile design, and the ability to guide and teach other artisans so they could participate in the construction as well. And returning to the principle of no earlier or later in the Torah, according to Rashi, the selection of Bezalel also serves as a repair for the sin of the golden calf. Bezalel was the grandson of Hur. Before Moshe ascends Mount Sinai the first time to receive the tablets, Hur is explicitly mentioned as being left in charge of Bnei Israel along with Aharon. Aaron and Hur are here with you. Whoever has a grievance should approach them. But during the sin of the golden calf, Aharon speaks to the people alone. Hur no longer appears. According to the Midrash, he had opposed the sin of the golden calf. His opposition to the golden calf resulted in him being killed by the mob. And so the selection of Bezalel, Hur's grandson, to guide and orchestrate the construction of the Mishkan is not coincidental. And perhaps you've already made the connection between the name Bezalel and the world of art and design. The Bezalel Academy of Art and Design in Jerusalem, as we know it today, originally called Bezalel School of Arts, was founded in Jerusalem in 1906 by Boris Schatz. Its goal was to create original Jewish art and design in the land of Israel, combining Jewish heritage with the modern artistic movements of its time, even before the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, and after the designation of Bezalel, a passage which may be familiar to you from the Shabbat Kiddush. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. The children of Israel shall observe the Sabbath to make the Sabbath an eternal covenant for their generations. The placement of the commandment of Shabbat next to the construction of the Mishkan is not coincidental. It teaches us that even the holiest human creativity, building a sanctuary for Hashem, must pause before the sanctity of Shabbat. And from here, the sages derive the 39 categories of labor, lamed tet avot melacha, forbidden on Shabbat, and which correspond to the types of work required to construct the Mishkan. And the portion that began with a hint towards Yom Kippur concludes with the revelation of the 13 attributes of divine mercy, Yud Gimel Hamidot, and the renewal of the covenant between Hashem and Israel and the giving of the second tablets. Unlike the first tablets, these tablets were not carved by Hashem. Instead, they were carved from stone by Moshe himself and brought down from the mountain on the 10th of Tishrei, which from then onwards is marked as Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the day that the relationship between Hashem and the people of Israel was renewed. The 13 attributes of mercy in this parashah are one of the few prayers given to us by Hashem directly in the Torah. To this day, on Yom Kippur, we recite the 13 attributes of mercy 26 times, corresponding to the numerical value of the divine name of Hashem. Hashem, Hashem, Kel, Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim, v'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Noseh Avon, v'Fesha, v'Chata'a, v'Nakeh. These describe the 13 traits of compassion and forgiveness of Hashem. The 13 attributes promise that there is always a path back, always the possibility for repair and forgiveness. And does the word Kippurim remind you of something else? Kippurim, Ke-Purim, like Purim, which we celebrated this week. At first glance, they appear completely different. Yet both days deal with the survival and the redemption of the Jewish people. On Yom Kippur, we transcend above our physicality. On Purim, holiness is discovered within the physical world itself. And we will conclude with the same blessing from Megillat Esther, which we repeat every week at the conclusion of Shabbat during Havdalah. ליהודים הייתה אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר. For the Jews there was light, joy, gladness, and honor. כן תהיה לנו, so may it be for us. From the days of Achashverosh to present day. We will meet again for the next parashah, Vayakel. And until then, Shabbat Shalom. Am Yisrael Chai.